Today, 5 cave tragedies, a man trapped for 14 days in freezing darkness, a flood no one saw coming, a rescuer's worst nightmare, and divers who vanished into silt and bad air. Let's start with the most agonizing entrapment in caving history. January 30th, 1925. Floyd Collins, one of Kentucky's best-known cave explorers, squeezes deep into Sand Cave. His goal isn't just discovery. He's scouting a new tourist route, hoping to develop the cave as a showpiece that could bring prosperity to his family and the rural area. 55 feet down, in a tight sandstone passage just wide enough to crawl, disaster strikes. A rock the size of a piano shifts, pinning his left leg. He's twisted sideways, barely able to move his chest to breathe. Rescuers scramble. They run food, water, and lanterns to him, while newspaper reporter William Skeets Miller, small enough to crawl the narrow tunnel, interviews Floyd directly, sending gripping updates to a nation glued to its radios. Miller's reporting will later win him the Pulitzer Prize, but the cave itself is the enemy. The passage is cold, muddy, and dangerously unstable. On February 2nd, part of the tunnel collapses, sealing off direct access. They can talk to Floyd through a small gap, but can't reach him. Above ground, hundreds dig a rescue shaft, inch by inch, while thousands of spectators gather, some buying hot dogs and souvenirs as if it were a fair, which, call me crazy, doesn't sound like the most tasteful way to watch a man die. Time runs out. 10 days pass without food or water. By the time diggers break through on February 17th, 18 days after he became trapped, Floyd has been dead for 3 days. The cause: thirst, starvation, and hypothermia. His body was eventually recovered after 2 months, but even in death, his journey wasn't over. He was reburied multiple times, once displayed at the Mammoth Cave Wax Museum, before finally resting at Mammoth Cave Baptist Church Cemetery. The ordeal became America's first live breaking news story, sparking a nationwide fascination with caves and influencing future safety regulations for exploration. But Sand Cave remained sealed, a silent tomb for the man whose dream was to open it to the world. June 24th, 1967. 10 cavers from the Leeds University Speleological Association arrive at the entrance to Mossdale Caverns. It's remote, bleak moorland, with a cave system notorious for its tight crawls and flash flood risk. 6 of them: Bill Frakes, 19, Colin Vickers, 23, Dave Adamson, 26, Jeff Boyrow, 24, Michael Ryan, 17, and John Ogden, 21. Push deep inside, aiming for the far marathon passage. A few hours in, 4 others turn back, exhausted by the endless crawling through passages as narrow as 18 by 12 inches, icy water running along the floor. Outside, the sky darkens. Underground, the 6 keep moving, unaware a heavy storm is about to turn their route into a trap. On the surface, Morag Forbes notices something alarming. The entrance is under 4 feet of water, fed by the now flooded Mossdale Beck. She sprints 2.5 miles across the moor to raise the alarm. What follows is one of the most extreme cave rescues in British history. Over 300 rescuers, including the Cave Rescue Organization, fire crews, and army engineers, battle torrential rain to reach the men. Bulldozers and tractors dig trenches and dams, sandbags divert the stream, pumps roar to force water out. Still, the flooding barely recedes for hours. The unstable sandstone and narrow unmapped passages make progress painfully slow. After 57 hours, 5 bodies are found together in Far Marathon Passage. John Ogden's body is located 2 days later, wedged into a narrow crack, a desperate climb for the last breath of air. Extracting them is judged too dangerous. With the family's consent, the cave is sealed. In 1971, friends secretly re-enter and move the bodies to the Sanctuary, a chamber believed safe from future floods. Memorials now mark the moor above. Mossdale remains the worst caving disaster in UK history, a perfect storm of sudden flooding, remote location, and passages so tight they could kill you even without water. And yet, despite the closure, some still sneak in. Apparently, world's deadliest cave is just irresistible marketing. November 24th, 2009, 26-year-old medical student John Edward Jones joins his brother Josh and friends for what's supposed to be an afternoon adventure in Utah's Nutty Putty Cave. Popular with beginners for its twisting, winding passages, the cave still carries a warning. Certain sections are so tight they've trapped people before. John and Josh aim for the birth canal, a narrow crawl that opens into a larger chamber, but John mistakes an uncharted side fissure, later called Ed's Push, for the right route. 10 inches high, 18 inches wide, sloping steeply downward, it's a dead end. By the time he realizes it, his torso is twisted, his left arm pinned, and his body is inverted at a 70-degree angle, a posture that sends blood rushing to his head and chest. Josh tries to pull him back but can't. He climbs out for help. The first rescuer on scene, volunteer Susie Matola, ties ropes to her feet and shuffles down the tunnel toward him. "Hi, Susie," John says with relief. "Thanks for coming, but I really want to get out." Hours later, panic breaks through. "I'm going to die right here. I'm not going to come out of here, am I?" Over the next 27 hours, 137 rescuers rotate in shifts, lying on their bellies in the rock to reach him. They rig pulleys, ropes, and mechanical advantage systems, straining against the cave's angles and fragile limestone. At one point, they lift him several feet, but an anchor point fails, dropping him back down. Even trapped, John worries about a rescuer injured in the mishap. Is he okay? "I think he's really hurt bad, but the strain is wearing him down. It sucks. I'm upside down. My legs are killing me," he tells them. His breathing grows shallow, his voice weaker, until just before midnight on November 25th, he's unresponsive. Cause of death: cardiac arrest from positional asphyxia. Retrieving his body is deemed too dangerous. In consultation with his family, officials seal the cave forever. Explosives collapse the chamber near John's body, and the entrance is filled with concrete. In 2016, The Last Descent tells his story. With his family's blessing, they remember him for his humor, faith, and love of adventure, and honor the men and women who fought so hard to bring him back. For the caving world, Nutty Putty became a permanent memorial, and the ultimate reminder that some places will not let you leave. Let's get straight into story 4. It was March 22, 1959, when 20-year-old Oxford University student Neil Moss joined a small caving party exploring Peak Cavern in Derbyshire, better known by its rather colorful nickname, the Devil's Arse. Deep inside, the group found a newly discovered vertical shaft, later named Moss Chamber, barely over 2 feet wide and dropping nearly 50 feet. Neil volunteered to go first. Halfway down, his rope snagged. As he wriggled to free it, he slid into an even tighter section, wedging himself so firmly that his chest compressed against the rock, legs locked, and air became harder to draw with every breath. Rescuers tried pulling him back, but each tug only drove him deeper. The shaft's geometry was so unforgiving that only the skinniest and most skilled could even attempt to reach him, including legendary potholer Bob Leakey, who later called it the tightest place I've ever been. They brought ropes, pulleys, even tried pumping fresh air, but the poor ventilation meant Neil was breathing back his own carbon dioxide. Hours of effort passed as his voice, calm at first, even speaking to his father at the entrance, began to fade. By March 24th, he had gone silent. With the shaft narrowing to an impassable choke point and the risk to rescuers growing by the minute, his parents made the agonizing decision to let him remain where he was. The chamber was sealed with rocks, leaving Neil entombed. May 28, 1973. 8 divers from the Mount Gambier Underwater Exploration Group, Stephen, Christine, John, Gordon, Glenn, Peter, Larry, and Robert, descended into the shaft Sinkhole, a flooded limestone cavern in South Australia, while 2 members, Joan Harper and an unnamed companion, stayed topside. The plan was modest: go as far as the rock pile, the established safe limit, and return. But once inside, they decided to push beyond into unmapped territory. Though skilled in open water diving, none had the cave-specific training to handle zero-visibility silt-outs or complex navigation in tight spaces. In a narrow tunnel, one diver's fin brushed the soft limestone floor, and the water instantly turned to an opaque cloud. The guide rope vanished, lights became useless, and disorientation set in. At depth, nitrogen narcosis further impaired judgment, making escape even harder. Some managed to feel their way back to the rope and surface, but Stephen, Christine, John, and Gordon were lost in the darkness. Their gauges may have shown 4 minutes of air, But at this depth, that meant barely over a minute of real breathing time, and panic burned through it even faster. Survivors later described the frantic sweeps of torch beams in the silt and hands clawing along the walls in a desperate blind search for the exit. When their bodies were eventually found, some at depths over 60 meters, others side by side, holding hands, nearly a year had passed. The loss of 2 siblings and 4 young lives shook Australia's diving community to its core. The disaster made national headlines, forced immediate restrictions on access, and led to the creation of the Cave Divers Association of Australia. Today, the shaft requires advanced cave certification and a permit. It stands as one of diving's harshest reminders. In a cave, one flick of a fin can change everything. Caves have a way of luring people in with their beauty and mystery, but the same twists, drops, and hidden chambers that inspire awe can also become inescapable tombs. Whether it's a flick of a fin, a wrong turn, or a single misjudged squeeze, the margin for error is razor thin, and rescue is never guaranteed. These tragedies aren't just stories of loss. They're stark reminders of nature's indifference and the unforgiving reality of the underground. Oh, and if you made it out of this deep dive alive, go ahead and click that like button before you surface. Subscribe if you want more. It's safer than caving, I promise.